Good evening and welcome to the Congregational Mission Study Team's third and final presentation. I'm Jane Bruce and a member of the team. We started meeting in January and are finishing in June. We've learned a lot in these months. We learned about Sunnyside and the areas surrounding us. We learned about live streaming, making slides for our presentation, and how to Zoom. Are you wondering what's next? When will we have a new senior pastor, head of staff? Well, let's go through the process. As soon as we conclude tonight, our mission study report will be sent electronically to our session members. This is a 46-page report. This will allow them time to review it before their meeting on June 15th. Assuming the session approves our study, they will send it to our Presbytery's Committee on Ministry, the COM, for review and approval. This step matters. As Presbyterians, we're a connectional body. We have valid interest in who pastors every other church in our presbytery, and every other church in our presbytery has an interest in whom we choose. As soon as our mission study report has been approved by our session and the Presbytery's Committee on Ministry, we'll post it on our website. We encourage you to read it thoroughly. If you cannot access it online, please call the church office and a copy will be printed for you. Because it will be online, prospective pastors can also read our mission study report. That's one of the reasons we've taken as long as we have and been as thorough as we have been. Prospective pastors will see this, so it's important that we get it right. After all these approvals, our session will nominate our Pastor Nominating Committee, the PNC. The congregation will elect this committee. As with every congregational election, there'll be an opportunity to nominate from the floor, even if we have to do so electronically. After the election, our PNC will begin work of finding our next senior pastor and head of staff. Our PNC will fill out a ministry information form, MIF or MIF. The Congregational Mission Study Report will be the basis for filling out the MIF. The MIF will then be posted to our denomination's job board, Church Leadership Connection, CLC. This job board is maintained by staff at our denomination's headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky. It's an example of our per capita dollars at work. Pastors will be able to search the CLC database for new calls, and the best of them will surely see our MIF. Also, the CLC matches pastors looking for new calls with churches seeking new pastors. When the CLC detects a match, they will send us that pastor's information form, PIF or PIF. Sounds like a long and arduous process, and perhaps in some ways it is, but it's designed to give maximum voice to us, the congregation, honor our Presbyterian connections, and give us all time to listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit. Our ministry hasn't slowed down the last year, even with the pandemic. Our ministry will continue throughout the search process. Let us be faithful to God at every step of the process, knowing that God is always faithful to us. Okay, we have CMS, COM, PNC, MIF, CLC, and PIF. Do you have all those filed away in your memory? You'll certainly be hearing more about them in the coming months. And now on to our presentation. This presentation will be a little different from the previous ones. Now it's our turn to tell you what we have learned and share our aha moments. And let me tell you, we all have aha moments. It's been a pleasure for me to provide analytical, administrative, logistical support as a member of this wonderful team. And it's a special group of Sunnysiders. Locating annual reports, directories, bulletins, and historical information was gratifying. So was ensuring the surveys were mailed on time, then collected and analyzed. Updating church records from the first survey was highly important. We now have a much more up-to-date church database because you provided addresses, emails, and dates of birth. Thank you so much for your survey responses. We learned from this survey that we are a well-educated and geographically diverse congregation. We're not just a little Midwest church. We have members who were born all around the United States and even around the world. We are conservative, liberal, and moderate in our theology. It makes for interesting discussions. In January, we began our face-to-face Tuesday afternoon 3 to 5 p.m. meetings. Once the pandemic was upon us, we continued via Zoom. We discussed every question of each survey. We often debated which word or phrase would be best. We tried to make sure that every question could be understood by every congregant. We even debated whether to include some of those questions. Sometimes we debated a word or a question for weeks. When the survey results came in and were analyzed, we felt good about the results. And now for my very favorite aha moment. It was in February when we were still meeting face-to-face. We had been discussing some question for quite a while, and all of a sudden the light bulb went on. This was not an ordinary task or assignment for this team. This was a labor of love. Everyone on this team loves this church and wanted our results to be the best they could be, to guide the PNC in finding our next senior pastor and head of staff. So even if you didn't like our questions or even the results, know that we did our best for Sunnyside, and we did it with love. And now it's my pleasure and honor to turn the presentation over to Robbie Todd.
Thank you, Jane. My name is Robbie Todd, and I'm going to present my report differently than my colleagues. I will be starting with my aha moment. I read 29 annual reports for my research into staff and building. I was most impressed by the service and faithfulness of the Sunnyside congregation. I've only been a member of Sunnyside for 3 years and do not know all of our members yet, but in reading these 29 reports, I kept coming across names on session, on committees, on deacons of people who I still see active today. Here's a small sampling. Paula and Terry Miller, Doug Ostheimer, Jane and Jean Bruce, Ken Byrell, Brian Johnston, Paula Horvath, Dave Weissman, Kathy Gallagher, Diane and Gary Andrews, Verna Lee Long, Carolyn Pinter, Nancy and Graham Lappin, Lou Parent, Linda and Bruce Bancroft, Joan and Jim Howe, Linda Riley, Nancy Hannon, Sue and Bill Lamy, Kathy and Bill Allwine. I'm sure there are many people that I have missed, but to see a list of this many people who have served Sunnyside for 3 decades or more is beyond impressive. As I move on to what I have learned about Sunnyside, you will hear me talk about service and faithfulness a lot. All the mission study team members I talk about now are part of the group of Sunnysiders who have served for 25 years or more, except me. What I've learned about Sunnyside and its members. I thought the history of the church might be dull, but Paula's report is very interesting to me. We urge all of you to read it when the final copy goes online. Let me talk briefly about the information that really resounded with me. I was more than impressed with the many pastors who kept the church going in the very earliest days and were determined to keep the church alive. I was impressed how 2 men stepped up during World War I when the pastor served overseas. I love the story of how John Studebaker and his daughter Grace Fish persevered for years to get our main church building built, which was completed in 1923. My friend and neighbor, John Studebaker, is the great-grandson of John Muller Studebaker, and he gave me some insights into the family legends surrounding John Muller. John took a Studebaker wagon west in 1853 as part of a wagon train to California. He initially was prospecting for gold, but when that endeavor was unsuccessful, he began selling wheelbarrows and mining tools to other miners. John actually made a fortune in his wheelbarrow endeavors. Upon his return to South Bend in 1858, he bought into the wagon-making business with two of his brothers. Having experienced the rigors of wagon train travel, he worked within the Studebaker Company to improve the quality of the wagons so they would have fewer breakdowns on the arduous trip west. Paula Miller, 55 years at Sunnyside Church. Kathy Gallagher's report shows how even through difficult financial times, the members of Sunnyside exhibited their faithfulness by seeing that the budget needs were met. The plans for the major renovation of the building and the gathering space were first launched in 1999 with the formation of a planning committee. In 2005, the project was complete with the majority of the cost of the new building already paid. The debt owed to the bank on the project was quickly paid off. Faithfulness and service. Kathy Gallagher, 40 years at Sunnyside. Gene Bruce spent many, many hours researching South Bend and St. Joseph County for his part of our report. We learned that Sunnyside is right smack dab in the middle of an area where financially poor, undereducated, and often neglected children and adults live a mile apart from where affluent or even wealthy, well-educated people with prestigious jobs live. The difference is startling and proves we have mission opportunities in our own backyard. Jean Bruce, 26 years at Sunnyside. Jane Bruce has been a wealth of information for all of us in every area. She is our logistics expert. Her service and faithfulness to Sunnyside over the years created this knowledge we could have not done without. Jane Bruce, 26 years at Sunnyside. I never even knew Ken Byrell at all, much less that he runs the soundboard almost every Sunday of the year. And now he also works Wednesday evenings and special services Ken Locke does during the pandemic. He wrote all of the survey questions for the mission study. His awesome editing, organizing, and writing skills have enabled us to produce the presentations and the final report. Service and faithfulness, Ken Byrell, 30 years at Sunnyside. At this point, our team wants to give Ken Byrell recognition for his Herculean efforts this week. He produced a wonderful script for us tonight and also very efficiently dealt with many adjustments to the final report. Thank you, Ken. What can I say about Ken Locke and his work with the committee? In our first meeting, he gave us the areas we should study and the information about Sunnyside and its congregation that we should research. Obviously, this was not his first rodeo. He helped us to understand the 6 ends of the church, which was not easy, trust me. Ken was a good facilitator without being bossy, both qualities of a good leader. In conclusion, let me say that it has been a privilege to work with these 5 Sunnyside congregants on the mission study team. We are very proud of the final report. It is visually stunning, thanks to Olivia Rotolo, as well as a good synopsis of all things Sunnyside. I will now turn the meeting over to Paula.
Thank you, Robbie. I was fascinated by the findings in my research of Sunnyside's 150-year history. As I read, delved into it, thought about it, wrote about it, definite themes and patterns emerged, kind of threads that ran through the 150 years, linking Sunnyside's past to the present. I was and am intrigued. We can appreciate and learn from Sunnyside's generations that came before us. So what recurring patterns, what recurring patterns, themes that have strengthened Sunnyside over generations have I found in our church, 150 years old? During these years, our church faced many challenges, some that could have resulted in closing. How did they survive? The ministers and consistently the congregations were determined, dedicated, and resilient, and the church moved forward. As current members of Sunnyside, we need to be determined, dedicated, and resilient as we move into Sunnyside's future. What's another 150-year pattern? Lay leadership has been consistently strong, with members stepping up to do whatever needed doing throughout the tough times as well as the soaring times. In Sunnyside's 150 years, lay leadership and volunteerism have been essential, enriching, and positive forces. These photos are examples of our volunteers, one on a step stool to get high enough to stir the big pot, cooking one of the many meals Sunnyside has provided for Hope Mission. The other shows some of our members in 2010 measuring in preparation for Sunnyside's building of Triumph's Habitat House. Volunteering and leadership, so essential. We cannot assume somebody else will step up and do it, whatever is needed. Sunnyside now needs its members to step forth, to be involved, and to volunteer, as generations have done successfully in our past, to help lead our church into the future. Another pattern, even in financially challenging times, the members strongly supported the church, even in its early years with the fluctuating membership and during the Great Depression. A noteworthy, consistent pattern that amazed me is that with small congregations and even the hard times, throughout the building of the first two churches and the additions to our 1923 church, debts and loans have been fully paid within a very short period of time. So another clear reason in our church's family tree is another clear pattern in our church's family tree, our tree of life, is that throughout the 150 years, members have valued the importance of the church in their lives, as evidenced by strong financial giving, including special gifts to support specific causes and programs. Another pattern, rooted from the church beginning in 1870, Sunday school, young people, and youth groups have been prime importance. Reverend Minutz, the minister from 1930 to 1937, wrote about the strength of the Sunday school program and the quote-unquote active youth fellowship, and that has continued. In the last 30 years, Sunnyside has supported youth mission trips, triennium, and Montreat times of faith, strengthening and group bonding. These slides are of Sunnyside's 2018 Montreat group. The one on the left was taken at the children's home where they always stopped on the way to Montreat. They always did mission work there, cleaning up the grounds. The second photo is Sunnyside's 2018 group with their literal and figurative mountaintop experiences at Montreat. Sunnyside and its predecessors have always valued its young people of all ages, who are a recurring and key part of our church's family tree. Another pattern that I noticed, and it was an eye-opener for me, is that the degree to which our church has always supported mission. It's been a part of Sunnyside from the very beginning. The threads of this pattern were evident immediately. The people in 1870, when they opened their church, welcomed many, many children for Sunday school whose parents were still going to churches across the river. And the junior and senior high youth groups joined with their friends here at Sunnyside. In the 1930s, after the Boy Scouts of America was formed, Sunnyside sponsored a scout troop at all age levels, and that was highly recognized and carried on until 1992. Sunnyside's annual reports showed that benevolences were always given to the presbytery, the synod, and to the General Assembly. And we have consistently supported the URC, United Religious Community of St. Joseph County. We've also been a very strong contributor in the past to Elwa Hospital in Liberia. We also had more local causes. We had some in additional international causes. And the Women's Association financially supported numerous local causes with personal involvement, such as tutoring and Jubilee Christmas. But in 1982, Social Ministries Committee was established, and Sunnyside's mission giving took off at the local level with funding and volunteers, the national and international levels. You see the completed church in Kenya that Sunnyside helped fund and Jeremy helped build. Our food pantry has been a sizable local mission, and this photo shows Sam with the food pantry's red cart. Mission has continued to be a major focus for many in our congregation and a major outreach of Sunnyside. So our family tree has a significant mission component. Numerous parts of Sunnyside's 150-year history surprised me. This photo of Trinity's active congregation was taken approximately in 1910. Sunnyside's earliest church began in 1870 with 31 charter members. But really, it shrunk to 12 members, to 1 member, to 15? Really? But the congregation and ministers kept the faith, were committed, and the church grew. And in the 1950s, it had over 1,000 members. Yes, really. One of my big aha moments involves our stained glass window. Because of the inscription at the bottom of the chancel stained glass window, I knew that the Studebakers had donated it. What I did not know was that per John Studebaker's dying wish, his estate and his daughter, Grace Studebaker Fish, and her husband, Frederick Fish, donated the full cost of building Sunnyside Church, dedicated in 1923 at its present location. Fascinating and informative to me. What themes or patterns in our history might we harness for our future? What do I hope for Sunnyside? Going back to my beginning remarks about Sunnyside's patterns and themes, I have learned that the Sunnyside that I have known since 1965 and that my husband has known all his life really is because of the people, the generations, the congregations before us, as well as our current congregation. The churches, Second Presbyterian, Trinity, Sunnyside, have all had their challenges, some huge, many smaller. But the congregations and the ministers have always had these traits. They were faithful, optimistic, dedicated, and determined to continue Sunnyside, and beyond that, to have the church thrive. Our Sunnyside family history again and again reflects resiliency. It reflects dedicated members gathered in fellowship and shared belief in Jesus Christ, who sustains, guides, and energizes us. After our downtime in the last few years, including adjusting to the COVID challenges, I'm hoping that we've come to value even more things perhaps we just took for granted, like our Sunday morning services, our Christian education, our fellowship times, our lifelong growing as Christians. I believe that, guided by our new pastor, our congregation will resiliently support Sunday worship, that we will support and participate in Christian education for all ages, toddlers through 90. We will enthusiastically support our youth groups and other church youth groups, that we will recognize that we need to step up and volunteer within the church as well as outside our walls with mission work in our community and beyond. I hope that the streaming of our services, reaching out into the community, continues to serve our homebound and others in the area who are not yet part of Sunnyside. Because of the experiences of COVID-19, I hope that we will continue to utilize technology to supplement our traditional personal contacts. And I hope that during our dry time, we will realize and know and feel the impact of a vibrant Sunnyside. I hope that we will be enthused and energized to be active at Sunnyside, to share the good news and invite others to come to Sunnyside, and when they come, to welcome them. I hope that we as individuals will be reinvigorated and know, or seek to experience, what a positive difference Sunnyside makes in our lives and the lives of others as we move forward serving God. I will now turn the presentation over to Jean Bruce.
Thank you, Paula. Good evening, Sunnysiders and other friends. In my part of the presentation, I'm going to tell you about what I've seen about the community, what I've witnessed about our congregation, and what I envision about our next senior pastor, head of staff. Psalm 32, verse 8, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. This passage is most appropriate. We have been called, we have been taught, we have discerned a direction, and loving eyes have certainly been on this team. My role in the community portion was to paint a picture of the economic development around Sunnyside, since that's historically been our service area, even before University Park Mall and Granger. In fact, the area was originally named Lowell, Indiana. Former Mayor Pete's words are prophetic. This is a very strange city. It doesn't fit most people's models. And it's because you have this decaying industrial footprint while at the same time a thriving and growing university that is world-renowned. Most places don't have these two things. Note this view looking east from the LaSalle Avenue Bridge over the St. Joe River. You can see that Sunnyside Presbyterian Church sits between and among the University of Notre Dame campus, Eddy Street Commons, the Triangle, the Boathouse, Howard Park, the Village at Riverwalk, Farmers Market, the Renaissance District, and 320 at Cascade, and the Commerce Center development. Notre Dame and Northeast Neighborhood long-range plans call for continued development within this irregular triangle. My first aha moment. Present and future households seem primed to move into this area, the hub of which is Sunnyside Presbyterian Church. Will this be part of Sunnyside's ministry? What I've learned about us as a congregation. It may seem like I developed more questions than answers. Perhaps that's true, but hopefully we all will actively pursue the asking of questions and the seeking of answers as we continue our lifelong learning. Are we too passive as a congregation? We would like to return to normalcy. At the same time, we would like to see growth in things like children and youth ministry. Also, we believe adult education, faith formation is important, but participation is minimal. What would empower us to develop the passion and can-do attitude to actualize these programs and events we view as important? Jesus faced numerous challenges during his earthly ministry, some of the same situations we face today. However, addressing today's situations from the pulpit seems to challenge the faith beliefs of some. Our pastors are teaching elders, as was Jesus. In the context of the Bible, should not our faith beliefs be explored in the face of new research-based evidence? Would faith formation, adult education help our understanding? Church growth over the past several decades has stagnated. Being comfortable, we were reluctant to change how we communicated God's word. Simultaneously, younger generations did change how they received all types of information, certainly including the word. The communications gap widened between these younger generations and the church. The chasm is now obvious. Are initiatives fostered by the pandemic God's way of nudging us to adapt? Much like youngsters today who spend hours looking at screens, the future of worship may need to adapt to existing and new technology. Face-to-face sanctuary worship will be but one of several ways to worship. The present is different. The future will be different too. Post-pandemic, how we worship will be influenced by what we have experienced during the pandemic. Time is precious to people. Worshiping by electronic means allows worshipers to tune in live and/or playback services at their convenience. Passive worship via Zoom or similar technologies, for some, will be preferred over actual presence in a sanctuary. Also, technology will enable new worshipers and our homebound members to more easily connect with the church. Can we adapt to this change in a positive way? So how do we motivate people to do face-to-face worship via an electronic screen? How do we deliver God's word? How do we build community? Are we asking the right people? Children come to us. We do our best to help raise them in the faith. Then they grow up and move away. That does not mean they have left the church. They may well be worshiping elsewhere. While we miss them, are we also looking for the young people moving into our community who may be seeking their next church home? Are we looking beyond the children, youth, and young family cohorts? What about the empty nesters who, now that they are not raising children, have time and energy to explore their spiritual interests? What about those who are retiring and, after years of soul-crushing work, want to replenish their souls? What about the senior citizens who, knowing that they are nearing the end of their lives, are realizing how little they know about God? Are these all possible avenues for ministry and church growth? My second aha moment jumped right out at me. Our own Chip Rotolo tells us that the greatest spiritual impact on children's lives comes from their parents, not from their church. How do we, the church, assist parents with the spiritual upbringing of their children? Having absorbed vast amounts of community information, shared aha moments, interpreted survey results, and participated in many discussions with team colleagues, I've developed my vision of our next senior pastor and head of staff. An experienced and adept storyteller who expertly uses technology and traditional means to effectively communicate the word. Relishes leading within the church and within the community, while simultaneously nurturing and empowering staff and congregational leaders. Embodies the gifts of charisma and confidence, and projects leadership in a way that draws people together behind a common goal. Entrepreneurial, with ability to think strategically and hold long-term focus on the spiritual life of families while executing plans to serve them with determination and precision. Achieves goals using finely honed leadership skills, bringing everyone together. Instinctively knows what behavior is expected in a given situation. COVID-19 has impacted us all and brought not only unprecedented challenges, but also unique opportunities. How we respond to them will be our legacy. Thank you for listening. Go forth, engage, and inspire. Now, as I turn the program over to Ken Byral, please keep in mind these inspiring words from that legendary World War II leader, Sir Winston Churchill. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. My area of study was the 3 surveys we conducted. The first was a membership survey designed to collect contact information. We did it first to get a baseline of what the current active membership is at Sunnyside Church and to engage those members. We were heartened to receive 170 responses. We had no idea what the commitment of members would be after the difficult time the church had been through recently. To give your personal contact information meant you were making a commitment. The second survey was called The State of Sunnyside Church and was designed to help us understand what we believe ourselves to be. We were interested in the current perceptions, concerns, and issues of the congregation at this time. We received 94 responses. The results were affirming that Sunnyside is a good church with a bright future. I want to spend a minute highlighting some of the results, which are very encouraging. 100% of members support children and youth programs. 97% said Sunnyside Church was an important part of their life. 95% said Sunnyside was welcoming. 95% of members support our adult education programs. 95% support our music ministry. 93% support our social ministry. 92% of members say Sunnyside is willing to discuss difficult topics. 90% said Sunnyside meets their spiritual and faith needs. 90 of us said we understand our Presbyterianism. 84% said our budget reflects a good balance of operations, mission, and ministry. 83% said Sunnyside is staffed appropriately for a church our size. 67% said they preferred a blend of traditional and contemporary music in our Sunday worship service. 64% of the congregation said it liked a worship service that was a balanced style of traditional and relaxed. These are results we can build on. We think this is helpful information for the congregation and session as we move forward. It will also help potential candidates for senior pastor and head of staff know more about who we are. The Future of Sunnyside Church survey was designed to bring out what we believe, what we do, and what we want. Kathy took us through the 6 great ends of the church. Paula, Robbie, and Jane went through the survey results, and Jean ended with the ranking of the desired attributes for the next senior pastor head of staff. I want to highlight that section for a minute because it is obviously important and will come up again later. The top 3 vote getters for desired attributes in our next senior pastor and head of staff were skilled at preaching and leading worship, good communicator, good administrator, staff manager. Pastor Ken told us these 3 are always at the top and are expected of any senior pastor and head of staff. Tier 2 was grouped closely and reflects where our congregation wants the new senior pastor to spend significant time. He or she should have skills and experience in these areas. Skilled in pastoral care, passion for children and young families, experience in church growth. These 3 areas had been mentioned as important in our previous survey questions. The third tier is the other areas that receive significant votes. Visible presence in the community and active community leader. Passion for outreach and mission. Skilled in baptisms, weddings, and funerals. These reflect more specific skills, talents, and experience in areas involving the public side of being a senior pastor. I've highlighted the top 9 based on responses from the congregation. The remaining 5 attributes dropped off significantly, but could still be taken into account as the PNC looks at the different talents of the candidates. I won't go through them, but they will be in the final report. That is a quick look at the highlights of the surveys. The team wants to thank everyone who responded. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Kristen Miller, who helped the team compile and analyze the results. We feel like the results capture where we are as a church in this place and time and where we want to go. I also believe the surveys had a positive unintended consequence. They gave us a fresh start as a congregation. What do I mean by that? The surveys gave us the opportunity to express our opinions on the current state of Sunnyside Church after some difficult times. The surveys gave us the opportunity to think about the future of Sunnyside Church and express our hopes. And the surveys gave us the opportunity to glimpse what our new senior pastor and head of staff might be like. For me and the team, that was invigorating and liberating. I have 2 aha moments. The first is that even though we are all Presbyterians, there is a wide range of religious perspectives among the congregation. I thought all Presbyterians thought the same. We don't. Despite being of one faith, our members have differing opinions on evangelizing, mission, outreach, worship, music, sermons, social justice, politics, budget, and staffing, and just about anything else that arises. We are diverse in backgrounds, experience, education, and where we come from. My second aha moment is that Sunnyside Church is bigger than all of us. It has survived for 150 years through many crises. It has suffered through tragedies and celebrated triumphs. Pastors, staff, and members have come and gone. Sunnyside and its congregation are resilient and faithful. Now is our turn to be good stewards and carry on God's work in this sacred place. The team is glad to be a part of it. And now I will turn the presentation over to Kathy Gallagher.
Good evening once again. It's hard to believe that this is our final presentation to our congregation, sharing what we've learned, our aha moments, and personal desired attributes for our new senior pastor, head of staff. It's been a privilege to be a member of the Sunnyside Church for over 40 years, and it's been an honor to be asked to serve on this team. I will share with you this evening some personal ideas that I might have to share with you. I love this slide, and our committee does too. This word cloud is made up of words you use to describe Sunnyside Presbyterian Church. Although these are not new discoveries to me, through your survey responses, you have reinforced my belief that we love Sunnyside Church. We are proud of our beautiful building. Many members find great pleasure in being active and sharing their gifts with others, both in our church and our community. We delight in including our children and young people as they participate in worship activities and programs. We take great pleasure in celebrating with our church family on occasions of importance, such as landmark birthdays, confirmations, anniversaries, and weddings. We rally together to comfort devoted members when they experience difficult times, perhaps an illness or passing of a loved one. We are thirsty to hear and learn from Scripture as we grow spiritually, being led in worship by our pastors, worship leaders, and music. We are not noticeably different than many other churches and philanthropic organizations, as we have experienced a decline in membership over the past 20+ years. What is encouraging, though, and to our credit as a body of Christians, is that we have a strong contingent of very active members who consistently step up to volunteer their time, talents, and financial resources to our church. We can be proud of that. As Paula and Robbie have shared with you, we have a strong history of 150 years as a congregation, and we have withstood difficult times. Our congregation can discuss hard problems with loving respect for one another. Somehow, when we have faced financial challenges, members and friends have stepped up to see us through. Case in point is the Studebaker family, who were not members of our congregation, but donated funds to build the first phase of our current building. Like many of you, I have celebrated the most important events of my adult life in this church and with all of you: marriage, the arrival of my children, their baptisms and confirmations. I have also experienced your love and grace during the most difficult times: the death of my parents, a brother, and a divorce. Many of you you Sunnysiders have helped me through, and I am so very thankful. Like many of you have expressed with us, I could not agree more. Sunnyside is family. I had many aha moments in the past 6 months of being part of this team, and I'd like to share 2 with you. The members of our team come from a variety of backgrounds with an assortment of gifts and talents. Each member contributed enthusiastically and willingly, and it was evident to me that God's hands was in the choice of the members of this mission study team. I'm so grateful and honored to serve as a member of this team. My second aha moment came from our survey. Our congregation perceives itself as a welcoming church. I will ask you a question. Are we? Are we a welcoming church? Do we reach out to visitors or an unfamiliar face to welcome them and to help them feel at ease? Those of us who are members feel Sunnyside has a welcoming atmosphere. But is that because we have become well acquainted with one another and stay with the group of members that we know? My observation is that we are a somewhat welcoming atmosphere. There are greeters every Sunday morning to welcome us as we come into the building. We have an ushering team that meets us with a warm smile as they hand us the Sunday bulletin. Once a member has committed to becoming a member, we provide a mentor who becomes acquainted with them and hopefully takes this job seriously. It can make all the difference in the world to a new member. We have a welcome center in the gathering space. However, it does not always seem to be consistently staffed. There is a welcome packet and a Sunnyside mug given to each visitor. But how are those distributed? I would like to share with you my experience on the first Sunday that I visited this church in 1977. To this day, I remember our lovely Marty Aronson coming up to me in the parking lot across the street after worship. She greeted me warmly, as only Marty could do, and welcomed me and invited me to come back again. I challenge each of you to be like Marty. Take that step to make visitors feel welcome, because to this day, all these many years, it is a vivid memory to me. Now I'd like to share with you just a few of the attributes that I personally think our congregation would benefit from as we begin the process of calling a new senior pastor head of staff. The first is a strong motivator who can spark outside of the box new thinking with our members, staff, session, and board of deacons. A warm and welcoming person who has a passion for members of all ages. A pastor who has an active interest in their congregation, not a person who is content to stay in their office. An effective administrator with experience in technology. And finally, considering our new emerging culture after the pandemic, we need a change agent, a successful leader who avoids getting stuck in the confines of doing things the same old way. And undoubtedly, the top three qualities of the survey: adept at preaching and worship leading, good communicator, and staff manager. This is an exciting time. Change is in the air, Sunnyside. My challenge to you is to embrace it. Let us be ready to move forward and continue to be that beautiful, welcoming, friendly, spiritual, accepting Sunnyside family that many of us describe our congregation to be. We are poised and ready to look ahead toward the future and the next 150 years. And now, I turn the program back to Ken Byrell to present our summary and final recommendations. Ken?
Thank you, Kathy. The team put a lot of time and thought into our summary and recommendations. Because of that, I'm going to read it so I don't miss anything. Here goes. The Congregational Mission Study Team has been honored and humbled to prepare this report on behalf of the congregation. Over the past 6 months, we have grown closer together and closer to God. We have also learned about the congregation, Sunnyside Church, and our community. It has been a fascinating journey. Our job was to prepare this final report, which will be used by the pastor nominating committee as the foundation for its search for a new senior pastor and head of staff. We believe that this document has captured the information and spirit of Sunnyside Church that will be helpful to the PNC and to any candidate interested in the position. In summary, we know there is not one person who will have all of the desired attributes ranked in the survey, but the attributes in Tier 1, 2, and 3 should be pursued. The team also believes that there are some general traits that should be kept in mind that would help the new senior pastor and Sunnyside Church excel in the future. Sunday worship is key. As people of the world, members want and need spiritual renewal, so we are prepared for the trials of the week ahead. The Sunday morning worship service provides this through music, scripture readings, communion, offerings, passing the peace, time with children, but especially the sermon. Good preaching is important and the most visible thing a senior pastor does. The senior pastor at Sunnyside Church must also be able to minister to a congregation with a wide range of religious perspectives. Our surveys revealed a healthy diversity in views, theology, worship style preferences, and positions on social issues. Our next senior pastor will need to have the skills and demeanor to navigate those perspectives, along with the will to push the boundaries so we can all grow and learn. The arrival of a new senior pastor will generate excitement and renewal at Sunnyside Church and provide an opportunity for new engagement by the congregation, reconnection by members who have fallen away, and interest by people looking for a church home. A senior pastor who is welcoming, warm, dynamic, and inspiring will be able to take advantage of these opportunities. The pandemic has changed the way we worship forever. It will not go back to what it was before. Our new senior pastor should be able to continue and enhance our ministries through technology. Our current live streaming has shown there is an audience for digital options. Finally, there is work to be done at Sunnyside Church that will require a senior pastor who is a leader and can inspire lay leadership, passions, and a can-do attitude in others. We need a senior pastor who can unleash the power of the congregation that has been patient and faithful during this time of absence from each other. Under a new senior pastor, we should better value, support, and prioritize the children, youth, and adult education programs that we cherish. As you can see from this report, Sunnyside is a good church and South Bend is a good place to live. Cultural events, colleges, medical care, low cost of living, and proximity to Indianapolis and Chicago are all major benefits to living and working here. However, everything is not perfect. Sunnyside itself is located in a growth area, but the city struggles with crime and poverty in areas not far from us that provide opportunities for social ministries. Like most mainland Protestant churches, Sunnyside has seen a steady decline in membership and attendance over the last several decades. More and more, we rely on rent, endowment funds, and large benefactors to meet our budget. And the surveys show that we are open to a majority of types of senior pastors, but there is some small resistance to an LGBTQ+ pastor. If called, such a senior pastor would have to work hard to address issues and allay fears. Most of all, we believe we will be best served by a senior pastor who will honor our past, embrace our present, and lead us towards new ways of building bridges of faith. God has led us to this moment. We are ready. That is how we ended our final report, and that concludes our presentation. Jane outlined the next steps in the process earlier. I'll recap. CMS, COM, PNC, MIF, CLC, PIC, easy peasy. Our team looks forward to hearing from the session about our report and sharing it with the congregation once it is approved. When you see it, you'll understand why we keep thanking Olivia Rotolo for her design work. She made us look good. I want to thank Allison Thigpen for running the live stream board tonight. She's also making us look good. The team has been honored to do this project. We felt the Spirit guiding us. Thank you for your participation and input along the way. Good night, and God bless Sunnyside Church.